Hi there, I'm Lougallagher.
I'm Corvette.ronnie.
Men sometimes confuse sexual interest for consent. On the next Men Are So Smart. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Men Are So Smart. You know, it's in the news. Every day, a new name of a celebrity comes up in some sort of a sexual harassment case.
Yep.
And I found this article to be extremely interesting, and it speaks to this matter. When it comes to having sex, consent is crucial. While that may seem obvious to most of us, a new study in the Journal of Interpersonal Violence reveals that some men perceive a woman's interest as consent for sex, misinterpreting a woman's sexual intentions.
It may sound like splitting hairs, but there's a difference between being interested in having sexual interest and actually deciding to act on that desire, which is the consent part. The problem, according to new research, is that some men have difficulty differentiating between the two.
For the study, these are the details. Researchers shared a series of hypothetical sexual scenarios with 145 heterosexual males, and they were college students, and asked them how they would respond. The researchers found that most men tended to confuse perceived sexual interest with being given permission to have sex.
Sexual interest, also referred to as sexual wantedness or desire, is a subjective experience of desire or wanting sexual interaction with another person, whereas consent is the freely given communication of willingness to actually engage in a sexual interaction. Kind of a blurred line there.
Would you say then, Ron, that being in a relationship means that there's assumed consent?
How many dates before you have sex?
That little rule thing is 3.
But not always. That may or may not be the case. And it shouldn't be. Nothing's hard and fast. It's not a written thing. It's something that somebody came up with at some point. Instead, 3 sounds like a good number, and that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, not all women feel that way. The worst place right now is obviously in the workplace. And many companies have your anti-dating policies in place just for that reason. Because there is too much familiarity with your coworkers, and it does start to get a little bit awkward. And then there's always the post-breakup problems that you have between personalities.
Well, I got to tell you, celebrities have been falling like bowling pins.
Yeah.
And I guess we'd have to probably start with Bill Cosby's situation.
Yeah.
Moving on to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And now we've got all kinds of celebrities. Kevin Spacey. Help me here, Ronnie.
Matt Lauer. Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah. Boy, you talk about hypocritical interviews.
Yeah. Yes.
And the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Lauer and Bill O'Reilly. Wow. Those two went at it.
I'm glad, honestly, that I'm not in the workplace full-time anymore. It's just this very strange time to have to work with women.
I saw an interview, Ronnie, with Katie Couric. She went on this radio show and was interviewed by Andy Cohen. I don't know if you know him or not.
I do. Yep.
For some of you, you may know him from the new Love Connection show that's on. He's on, hosts that. He played a game with Katie where it's called A, B, or C. And it's like date, marry, or kill. And so, and I'm a little bit wrong on this. You'll have to watch the interview, but you'll get the gist here in a second. Then he gives you 3 names, and you have to apply those 3 categories to those 3 names. And what Katie Couric had to say was extremely inappropriate. The fact that she even went on the show, in my opinion, jeopardizes her credibility as a news person. But if it's inappropriate for a man to say things, isn't it also then inappropriate for a woman in the same contexts to say the same things?
Okay, I will say it is on paper, but the man has to take exception to it before it's dealt with.
You mean the harassment part?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman comes up and is flirting with you, most men enjoy that.
Sure.
A lot of women enjoy it also, but there's a small percentage of women that not only don't enjoy it, they find it to be harassment.
But you know what? A caveat to that would be when you're at a bar and girls are out for a girls' night out, they don't want guys hitting on them.
Right.
However, if they're there on a different night, they love it.
Yeah.
So
it's game.
Yeah.
Game on.
Right. You can't have it both ways.
No. I will tell you that the one that kind of shocked me because of who he is was Al Franken.
Oh, sure.
And I totally get that he was a comedian, and so I'm sure that in the back of his mind, he still got a lot of sophomore pranks, and the picture that he took was...
Do it with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Highly inappropriate. However, I have to imagine over the course of the years, how many of those pictures has he probably taken? There's probably hundreds of them out there, but a woman took exception to it.
Okay, let's go a little bit in this direction. First of all, I have to question these guys' moms and how they were raised.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know them personally, and I don't claim to, and of course, I certainly don't know their parents or their upbringing. But that's not the way my mom taught me that women were supposed to be treated. And more specifically, drugging them and then taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
Is it a parenting issue? And by this point, we're talking about fully grown men, and it's beyond. Now, is it old Hollywood and what was accepted in the 50s and 60s and what these men grew up with?
Well, I think that's definitely the Weinstein thing, is that you're a person in power. If you're a young, struggling actress and you want to advance your career, you know what? Then you do what you got to do. Is it wrong? Oh my God, 1,000% wrong. I just think that a lot of these guys get too comfortable and start feeling a little bit too powerful.
Exactly. That's the operative word right here. Power and control.
Yeah. What seems like it would be totally inappropriate, the more times you do it, it becomes the norm.
Right.
Not that shocking. It's only shocking the first 10 times or so. After that, it's not that shocking.
Okay, so now we've talked about consent and sexual interest, the difference between those two things. We've talked about power and we've talked about control. Really what it comes down to is if you are in a position to control someone's career advancement, in order for them to do that, they have to perpetuate this sexual experience. I gotta say, people, at some point, the woman has to draw the line.
Right.
And I mean that. I mean, and this goes Bill Cosby, whoever it might be. At some point, when they say, yes, I'd like to meet with you about being in this movie, and I'd like you to come up to my hotel room and audition for me, what does she think is going to happen? Now, I'm not saying that makes it right.
No.
But when you create an opportunity, you have to deal with it and its consequences as well.
Yeah.
The main thing that I don't understand, and I would appreciate, ladies, if you would give me some feedback down here below in the comment section. But what I don't understand is, why was it okay when it happened to not report it? But now it's okay because the floodgates have been opened, and 20 or 30 years later, you're bringing up these experiences which you allowed to happen at the time. I know that's hard to take.
A lot of different points there, but I mean, not the least of which is the amount of time. And I can understand if it was a child, maybe it was something that happened when the woman was only, 10 or 15 years old. At that point, you're afraid that if you tell somebody, something bad is going to happen to you or your family. Okay, I totally get that. And if you report that once you're 21 or 25, okay. But like the accusations against Roy Moore are 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything can be proven from 40 years ago, and it happened at a time when he's running for office. It seems like the timing of it was just aimed directly at influencing his election.
It was politically done.
It definitely is politically motivated. All these bandwagon fans, they keep jumping on also. One of them even retained a lawyer, had some documentation. The documentation was found to be forged.
Oh boy.
And false. If you have a legitimate case against somebody, man, bring it out immediately, because the longer these cases sit, the less likely they're going to be able to prosecute anything.
Now, hindsight being what it is and all, if you have been sexually violated, you go to the hospital, the emergency room, whatever the case may be, and they have what's called a rape kit. Now, I know that that's got to be humiliating as a person, be it a woman or a man for that matter. It's got to be humiliating. But imagine if one of these women had a rape kit done at the time or immediately after this accusation.
Yep.
That rape kit would be evidence that would still be in existence to this day, I would guess and hope.
Absolutely. They save DNA samples for decades.
And so when they talk about statute of limitations, and when you run out of that statute, you have to have cold, hard evidence in order to bring it up again. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
A rape kit is just that.
Yeah.
And so, again, hindsight, perhaps maybe that was the mistake. But I will say this too, Ronnie. When we were younger, if a girl got raped or if she got pregnant, there was a time when she was sent away.
Right.
She was sent away to grandpa's to live on the farm and live out the rest of her days until she moved on in adulthood. So yes, it was very embarrassing and humiliating. You probably don't think about those things at the time, but we have to make it clear now.
But today the social stigma attached to that is non-existent.
Right.
It's a different time than when we were younger. Sexual assault is real. I totally get it. I'm a big proponent of women's rights and think that if you are sexually molested or assaulted, then by all means, contact the authorities, contact the police. To sit on it for so long, for 40 years, well, I can't get on that.
People's careers are being decimated at an alarming rate without evidence. You're just throwing a guy's name out there. Reputation's becoming questioned, is my point.
You also consider some of the sports figures that have had sexual encounters with people outside of their marriage, and then were kind of outed, and then guess what? They were, paid off, and it went away.
It goes away.
Yeah, it goes away. I just don't see that happening with something like, again, going back to the Roy Moore case. These things are 40 years old. He's not going to pay anybody off to keep somebody quiet. I know the whole Kobe Bryant thing, not to darken his name, but it's out there already. He paid off his accuser, and it's all, she signed a non-disclosure. She won't talk about it. She won't make a movie about it or write a book about it. She won't tell anybody about it. It happened. She got paid for it. It's swept under the rug.
Is that right? No. But sometimes it is about the money.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. We'd love to get your comments on this. This is going to be in the news for a while.
Hot topic.
Not a big fan of Matt Lauer's. It was rumored that he was having affairs all throughout his marriage. And they were, unproven, undocumented. They were, Star paper, newspaper, that kind of rag magazine. I don't know. He was making $21 million a year. Now, my question is, what will his wife do?
Yeah, well, he's not making $21 million this year.
How must she feel?
I'm sure we've all had opportunities to cheat on our wives because it almost always comes out. Very rarely are, these liaisons 100% secret. And when it does come out, what are your kids going to think?
Yeah.
What is your wife going to think? What are your parents going to think? What are your in-laws going to think? What are your coworkers going to think? You're going to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Not that I'm the affair type person, but I don't like people thinking poorly of me.
All right. Love to hear from you. Your comments below. We will respond and reply, if not both. All of our information is down below, including our sponsors, Trico Welding Supplies and Capital Mobile Freight. If you'd like to advertise on the program, please send me an email. I'll talk to you and give you a call. Also, all of our links to social media are below, and our blogs and links to other matters in this topic. Thanks for watching. This has been a special edition of Men Are So Smart.